Hi, I'm here to do my what I've been watching in August video, and as usual I've been watching a lot because it's summer and I can justify it because I'm doing a film course. So whenever my family are like, stop watching stuff, go outside, I'm like, it's research. The first film that I watched in August in the cinema was Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets. Now, if I was going to describe Valerian in one word, it would be fun. And I've seen loads of like long essays and articles and critiques being like, oh well, they didn't go into this, or it was really underdeveloped, or the world building was all... Stop. Accept Valerian for what it is. It's fun, and you can tell that it's Luc Besson's passion project that he's been working on for ages, because every single frame just exudes that fun and enthusiasm. The visuals are incredible, the CGI is amazing. Is the script good? Not particularly, but it's enjoyable, and Dane DeHaan and Cara Delevingne are fine in their roles as Valerian and Laureline, and you just enjoy this adventure. At least I did. And for the people that are saying that I just copy Star Wars, the actual graphic novel of Valerian was published before Star Wars was released, so you can just sit back down. I think if you go into a film like this wanting to pick it apart, you will find things to pick it apart with. Of course you will, but if you go into this film just wanting a good time, that's what you will get. Then I went to see The Big Sick, which was interesting. I did not know much about it before going in, and I was pleasantly surprised at what it was about. Basically, The Big Sick follows Kumail, who is the comedian Kumail, and he's kind of playing himself. It's based on his life, and he has this relationship with this girl called Emily, but he can't tell his family because she's white and they want him to marry a Pakistani girl, and then their relationship kind of goes peaks and troughs, and then she catches this infection that gets really serious, which is why it's called The Big Sick, and it's about how he deals with that, and also his family and kind of his inner epiphany when that happens. And I really did enjoy it. I thought some parts the pacing was a bit weird, it could have done with some editing, but when it's really funny, it's really funny. And that sounds weird because it's a movie about this girl that gets really ill, but it is funny, and it's just about life, I guess, and people coming together, and also him being a stand-up comedian, and also him, you know, dealing with his kind of Pakistani heritage and not wanting to disappoint his parents, but also wanting to kind of cleave his own path in his own life. But it was really interesting, it was quite refreshing, and I think that it's really important to support original films like this and original screenplays, because I'm sick of, you know, franchises like Transformers and I think I saw one review, it wasn't of The Big Sick, it was of another film on Letterboxd, and someone had said, I went to this purely because I don't want Michael Bay to think that anyone cares about his tin cans, which is so true. Like, no one cares about Transformers, no one cares about a fifth Pirates of the Caribbean film. Give us better stories, try harder. Sorry if I've moved since the last reviews, because my friend came around and I had to and I had to get up and move things, but I need to finish filming this video because we're going out later. This is the only time I can do it. So, side note, we're going out to see It, the new Stephen King adaptation.
For free!
So that'll be really fun, and that will be reviewed in next month's wrap up. Right, B? Yes. Stay tuned. The next film I saw in August was Atomic Blonde, which was alright. I went to see it with my friend Ellie, and we like had a good time because like we hadn't seen each other in a while, and also the film was interesting and it kept our attention and it was well shot and well acted. But just in the middle I kind of turned to her and was like, so do you know what's happening? And the answer was basically no. There were a lot of threads that went over each other and they didn't quite lead up, and there were like 3 different endings, neither of which were that satisfying. But I really liked the soundtrack, I really liked the way it was shot and the way it was coloured, and also just the performances and the general kind of atmosphere. But I think as a kind of cohesive like spy narrative, it didn't really fit together as well as it should have, but there were some really great action sequences, and I would still recommend it if you just want a little bit of action and a bit of fun. You don't have to take it too seriously, because I don't think it takes itself too seriously either. The next thing I watched in August was not really a film, but it was Top of the Lake China Girl, which is season 2 of Top of the Lake, coincidentally, and it's a TV series by Jane Campion, who is a really quite famous kind of cinematic director. She's done a lot of like Oscar-winning stuff, and her TV show is really good, and it has Elizabeth Moss from The Handmaid's Tale, so a lot of kind of high profile actors, and the story is really engaging. I thought season 2 was slightly a bit more on the kind of unrealistic side, whereas season 1 was kind of realistic and gritty, but it still kept my attention, and the performances were great, and the way it's shot is incredible. Its first season is in New Zealand, the second season is in Australia, so there is a lot of like beautiful cinematography and really interesting storylines, and they all kind of center around motherhood and identity, and it's very female centric, and literally all the men in the show are just gross and annoying, but it's a very female driven story, and it's really, really engrossing, and I would recommend it if you're into something that's a little bit sinister but also really engaging and also kind of heartfelt at times, and then other times it's quite creepy. So yeah, a mixed bag of stuff, but very, very, very good. Then I went to Venice, and my dad downloaded loads of movies to watch on his iPad. Some of them were rewatches and some of them I hadn't seen before, so I'm just going to give a rundown on what we watched in Venice. Night 1 was Four Weddings and a Funeral, which I hadn't seen before. Very enjoyable. I always enjoy like a 90s early 2000s Hugh Grant. Was quite nice, and also if you know of the film, it's worth it for that scene in the rain. Just please watch it. It's very enjoyable. It's like not a great film, like with a capital G. It's not like a great film, but it's worth watching. It's just enjoyable. So yeah. Night 2 we watched The Angels Share, which is a Scottish film directed by Ken Loach, and it's set in kind of the scummy part of Glasgow, which is where I grew up. Woo, shout out. And it was really, really great. I've seen it before, but it was really funny, and just reminded me like Glasgow humour is hands down the one that will get me laughing every time. It's so funny and it's very unique, and I love it. If you haven't seen it, please go watch it. It's so good. Night 3 we watched Lost in Translation and Bill Murray. It's kind of everyone's dream to meet Bill Murray in a foreign city and sing karaoke with him. Night 4 I rewatched Arrival, which my dad hadn't seen before. Arrival is so good. It's not just good sci-fi, it's just a good film, and it's like, it's sci-fi, but it's a very slow-paced sci-fi, which I found was really interesting, because most sci-fi things are kind of like action-packed and it's dangerous and ooh, space is so like unknown, whereas Arrival's like, it's mostly set on Earth, and it's about communicating with aliens, but through an actual way of communicating. It's not just like everyone speaks English because this is Doctor Who and we have a European audience. It's like, how would you communicate with beings that literally have no idea what your culture or your language is? And it's very interesting, and it's really well performed, and it's gripping, and it's great. Last night in Venice we watched Midnight Cowboy, which is a really kind of sweet but sad film about this kind of Texas guy who's like really into like the cowboy aesthetic, and he goes to New York and he meets this like thuggish kind of like hustler guy who's played by Dustin Hoffman, and they form like an unlikely friendship, and then it's about them living in New York in poverty. But it's really sweet and it's a good film, and I think Dustin Hoffman got an Oscar for it, and if he didn't he probably should have. He's very good in it, and it's an enjoyable film that I would recommend. And then I watched Death Note on I honestly, like, I can't talk about Death Note. I wrote a long review on my Letterboxd. I will link it because I don't want to go I don't want to go into it. It's just, it shouldn't exist, but like a small part of me is kind of glad that it does, because I think like within the first 10 minutes you realize it's not going to be a good film, but I think if you just accept that and go with it, you'll enjoy it for the trash it is. If you don't accept that, you just spend the rest of the film picking it apart, it won't be a fun experience. So that's up to you. What did you want to say?
Accept it for the trash it is, and then you'll have enjoyable fun.
Yes.
And also ask what is life at the moment.
Yeah, it's one of those films where you're like, every single second you're kind of like, how did this happen?
Also, like when you see people trying to like do like proper reviews on it,
yeah, it doesn't merit
and saying,
that at all.
Ooh, this bit was, you know, like interesting. And
okay, the camera's died, so literally everything that could have gone wrong today has gone wrong, but it's fine, we'll just go with it. Death Note, what were we saying?
Also,
You're
It's the whitewashing.
You're not in frame. Yeah.
Oh god.
Yeah, there you go.
The whitewashing is embarrassing.
It is really
like it just like hints at Japanese culture with no context of how this random white guy knows these things.
Yeah, but you know what? If you're like, it's a Friday night, you've got nothing else to watch,
And it's
invite some friends.
Free.
Yeah, invite some friends round. Just laugh at it. It's funny. It's not meant to be, but it is. Last film of August, because I'm running out of time.
Right.
No, you can stay. Like literally, you'll be here for like a minute. Was Detroit, which I did enjoy. Well, enjoy is a hard word to use with this film because it's a hard film to watch. But I think the main thing that I would want people to take away from Detroit is that it's not a film about a historical event. It's still happening now. Police brutality in no way has softened since that time. If you're watching that and you're like, this is really brutal, I'm sure things have improved since then. No, and a little bit of light research will tell you that, and I think that's the main thing that I would take home from Detroit. But yeah, I'm glad that it exists and this is starting a conversation, because I went to see it with my parents and they weren't as aware of like the current landscape and regarding police brutality, and I managed to like have a conversation with them about it, and I'm grateful that it exists for that reason. And shortly after that I read The Hate U Give, which I would really recommend as kind of like a modern equivalent. the camera died again. So basically, thank you for watching.